You're listening to Polymatic.media, episode 74 for November 2020. Welcome to the Polymaticast. Hey, John, how's it going?
This year is almost finally over.
Yeah, not soon enough.
Damn
Not soon enough.
My phone
got
makes
ringed. Dinged.
Yeah, my phone makes noises. I'm sorry. I'll just put it away. I mute it, but then it still vibrates and it does things. So we just
I know. I always
turn it off.
if I have to be conscious of when I tweet you something or when I message you something because you'll wake up at 3:38 a.m. in the morning to go look at it.
Yeah, well, I still have the notifications for the work stuff, so I need to
Right.
at some point be able to turn it off. But that moment is not now.
Yeah, I think if we fast forward 10 years, you'll be saying the same thing.
Yeah, I'm just gonna leave this in. I'm fine. It's fine.
Yeah. No, it's the nature of what we do.
Work,
yeah,
man. Work.
so it's been a moment, and
Yeah, it's been like 6 weeks or something like that, maybe longer.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. A lot has happened in October.
And November already. We're halfway in November.
You're halfway through November. Yeah, and it's at least here in the U.S. it's like holiday season, so I guess calculation's not right. Not even next week. So in 2 weeks, so basically it's Thanksgiving.
So do you count election as a holiday?
No, though I heard a lot of rumors where people were saying that it should be legal or it should be required, like a federal holiday or federal law, that Election Day is a paid day off for people. And I think that definitely goes in concert with, how it happened here in the U.S., where a lot of people were waiting for hours, not because the process could or has to take that long, but because certain districts and counties and political parties should have engineered it to be that way to discourage people from voting at all. So the U.S. has been bad about this kind of two-party politics system for it's more than 10 years. I would say it's at least a couple decades. Not in the making, in the operation of. And it's only been revealed how tremendously bad it is because we are now definitely in the last 10 years, certainly, in an age where we record everything, whether you like it or not, good, bad, and ugly. So there's lots of data and there's lots of factual evidence to go back and point at. Right. And where before these political parties used to hide in sort of the pattern of people who would forget every 4 years kind of thing. So now they get to go back and point and say, no, you did this last time. Oh, and you did it here too. And oh, by the way, these big tech companies are also doing a tremendous amount of telemetry, right? Logging. So there's lots of statistical evidence to go back and say, no, stop forgetting. Here's the evidence, right? We got like more than 10 years of evidence right here. We're calling you out on this. So
we'll get to election shenanigans in a bit, but
yeah.
I'll discuss the things that I noticed in the last few weeks when we get to that.
My whole point is, it's been very stressful, and we probably should have a federal holiday enacted if this is going to be the constant, chronic problem that we're always going to have. So anyhow, that was it. That was the whole reason to lead up into a small rant about it.
Okay. So you joined the Tesla Owners Club?
Yeah, right. So it's old news. I got a new car this year, and I bought a Tesla, and I want EV. Right? Okay. So we need to talk about that. Even before I bought my Tesla, there were some other Teslas around here, and because of the sort of proximity of where I live, just outside of the direct area where I live, there are definitely more wealthier areas, and seeing Teslas around it isn't unusual. And because we also in the state have one of the few service centers in the state, basically. So that also, I think, increases the chances of seeing them floating around. But every time I go out to run errands, I see at least one, I would say anywhere from 2 to 3 of the same color cars. And so I kept having this floating concept in my head, like, who are these people? Why don't I at least know their names? Right? I think there's something to be said about anyone who
because you own a Tesla, you're suddenly part of that.
the cult.
The cult.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're everyone's got their fanboy club, right?
Yeah.
You Apple people have their fanboy club, Android people have their fanboy
Yeah,
club.
but they're not actually clubs.
They're not actually clubs, but you understand what I mean. Like
Yeah.
they're the sort of the fan club, so to speak. So, but I think going EV says something, right? It's more than just it's an active decision, whether it's a Tesla or not. And anyhow, so it's Beider Meinhof, right? Once you see something, you can't unsee it. I was seeing them well before I even bought one myself. So anyhow, I went looking, and apparently on Facebook, this is where all the Tesla owner clubs sort of come together. They have Facebook groups, and I found one that was the official Pennsylvania one, but Pennsylvania is not a small state. It's not our largest, but it's not a small one either. And it's big enough that this club can't cover the whole state. So I had to drive like 50 miles in one direction to go to one of their meetups to meet some of these other people, and a real nice group and real fun group. And Tesla has been trying to have a little bit more of an active rapport to help club, sort of auto clubs or Tesla owner clubs. And they went to this club and say, hey, we'd like to make you the official Pennsylvania one. So this club is also listed on Tesla's site if you know where to look. But Tesla doesn't go out of their way and say, hey, now that you own a Tesla, hey, here's things you might want to know about. And, oh, by the way, here's a link on our page to a list of clubs in your area, right, or in your state. And then there's another one that has been around for a while. I think one of the first that sort of formed outside of, let's say, New York or California. And I also joined that club. So I'm in 2 clubs, but the one for Pennsylvania, Tesla came to them and said, hey, we want to make you the Pennsylvania, owners club. So they did that, and this started from 2 clubs that sort of merged together in Pennsylvania to adding a few more that cover the rest of the state. And one of those areas that's sort of not been serviced has been roughly the area where I live, which is outside Philadelphia. So they asked me to help with that. And so I'm now participating with the Tesla Owners Club of Pennsylvania. Yeah. And I did a meetup last weekend with like a small little, there's a sort of an event thing that happens, and it has definitely been popular during sort of pandemic time, which is these cars and coffee, where people sort of collect outside of I don't know, I would say like a population center, like where there's a Starbucks or your favorite little coffee place or something like that, and they socially distance in the parking lot. And, they sort of hang out and they meet up, right? And so I had one of those for our new King of Prussia chapter in Pennsylvania. And I wasn't expecting a lot of people, but we had a few people come out, so it was pretty good. And collectively, the Pennsylvania club is over 300 members.
Okay.
So that's it. So I've been getting involved with that, and I've been meeting some other Tesla owners and helping them with graphics and all the various things. And it's been made me active on the Facebook group related to the Tesla odor clubs on Facebook. I am not a fan of Facebook, but this is where this group kind of organizes. So I'm there now again, just for the groups. If you say happy birthday to me on Facebook, I'm gonna ignore it. Not a fan, but yeah, that's been actively keeping me busy. But one of the things that's good about it is they do these virtual talks. So, for example, they did a talk with somebody from a company that sells tires, and they were explaining how tires for EVs is different than your normal like gas car because of the capabilities of an EV. They have so much torque and performance control. When they make tires, they make them noise canceling. They are basically the kind of tires that would go on supercars like Bugattis, right? Even my car, Bugatti's faster by like a second, but basically the tires that they would make for Bugattis are basically the kind of tires that Tesla puts on their vehicles. Because of the performance stress and stuff like that. So there's lots of little things from I'm learning collectively from like, what do you do about winter care and this and stuff like that. And collectively as a club, they have resources and people. And we have some associated connection with Tesla. So it's been good.
Is that where you learned about the ceramic coating that you put on your car?
I heard about it from a neighbor, and I have known of these things where people who like to protect the paint on their car, especially when, if it's brand new, especially if it's a car where you want to, you care about these things. You want to keep up the maintenance and the quality of it. You get a lot of wear and tear, especially if you live in a part of the world where you get weather, where it changes a lot. Like in California, it's basically the same all the time.
Fires.
Right. Okay. Well, yes. Okay. So aside from looking like a scene from Blade Runner, and that's more of a problem of recent days. But if you live in Arizona, it's basically the same weather all the time. But here in Pennsylvania, we get all the seasons, right? We get the rain, we get the heat, and we get the cold weather like it is now, and then we will eventually get some snow. So that is very brutal on the car. And we don't get it as bad as something like Boston, which is really bad, right? So the salt that gets up on your car and, the snow, all that is going to be corrosive to sort of the paint on your car. So
do they take the panels off your car and then individually treat them, or do they just treat it on top of the car?
So there's a couple different ways. It depends on who you get to do it. My personal research before talking to other Tesla owners was that, and again, this same thing applies for even if you bought a Lambo or you bought a nice Mercedes, right? Sometimes what they do, depending on who you go to, they will pull all your panels off. They will do complete recoats and paint corrections. Then they'll do the coating. And then sometimes they'll even do like vinyl wraps. And they even have clear ones. Right. So what I did is I got a ceramic coating. So prior to ceramic being a technology that people liked, there was graphite. And what was it prior to before? I can't really remember. But if you wanted to wrap, like a Tesla vehicle, for example, what they'll do is a lot of these places, they can cost anywhere from, I don't know, $1,200 to $3,500. And those guys who charge about $3,500, they'll do everything down to you sort of really nicely polishing your glass, every your side mirror, everything, right? Then they'll do the coating, and then they'll do like a clear vinyl wrap to protect the car. So I only did the ceramic coating, and I didn't take it to a place because then you have to leave your car there for a few days, and then it costs you a couple $1,000.
You did it yourself.
I didn't do it myself, but I know other Tesla owners now who did it, themselves, and their cars really do pop. They look good,
Oh, you,
and
you haven't applied it yet.
I did actually. I called somebody, and he literally drove to the house. And where I live, I sort of have a parking lot in front of the townhouse.
Hmm.
So I pulled the car out in the open space. It wasn't blocking anybody, and he pulled on up, and he did it right in front of the house last Sunday. It took him like 4 or 5 hours, and it was a fraction of the price. And he detailed it, and it looked amazing. I mean, have you seen the pictures? I showed you the pictures, right?
You should have made it like a before and after picture.
I took maybe 1 or 2 shots before. But one of the big problem is where I live, when I park the car in the carport, the back side of the car is still exposed to the outside world. And there is this tree that still is, even in fall time, is still like alleviating all of its pollen. So the big old breeze happens, and it travels, and it sticks on the back of my car. And so I was concerned because even with previous cars, when you are near a tree or something like that and it's got pollen or something catches on it, it literally corrodes away your paint job. And so this was part of my reasoning. And then wintertime, I wanted to make sure I put some kind of protective coating on the car to kind of keep it from just, aside from looks, just hurting the car.
So
I did that.
If you put like a clear bra over that, would that be sufficient to protect from like dings and scratches and stuff?
So what I heard is you want to do both. So when you put the ceramic coating on, the whole process, once it's all said and done, that stuff sort of bakes into your paint.
Oh, okay.
So it's not just like a lacquer that's on top of your car that like rain will wash it off in like 2 years. Like yes, no, kind of, not really, exactly.
Because I know that
paint.
certain wraps, like they stick too well, and then eventually when you try to remove the wrap,
Right.
it just takes some of the paint with it.
Right. You don't want to do a wrap job on your own.
No,
You're
it's like,
the
like
professional.
professional applied, and then still it takes some of the paint with it when it gets removed. So.
Right. And so that's why there are places that do this professionally and are touted to be really good at it. And that's the only kind of thing you can get by knowing like other club members, even in like other auto clubs. They'll give you some really good advice, or they'll give you a company or a person or something that they know that has done good work for them, especially in the area of EV. Who's a good electrician to file the permits for your local area to do that kind of work? And what kind of not all electricians want to do tricky work, right? The one I called, they're having difficulty with the local utility because the local utility is sort of in pandemic mode, and they're not really concerned about doing detailed work. But in my case, because of where I live, the HOA said, no, you got to stick it in the carport. You can't stick it in front of the house. And so that utility has to come out, and the company that I hired has to go and do trenching and then seal it, and have to put a bunch of insulated boxes in place, weatherproof boxes, and then the utility's got to come out and authorize and approve it and schedule it, and it slows down. But some electricians will do the basic work in your garage, and some of them will not do trenching work, right? So if you're just guessing, you could spend thousands of dollars and guess wrong. And so it's good to know a group of people that know people, right? Or are good as a collective resource. So anyhow, we talked about it. Let's stop talking about it.
Yes, that's your as they call it.
I went on a rant probably 10 minutes.
Teslas. I've heard people call Teslas douchemobiles now. So what do you think about that?
I know that because they're nice looking cars, or they're different looking cars. Let me say that. And even for different looking cars, I think they're pretty nice looking considering that fact. But the point is that I recognize that I have a target, meaning that
I think it's very similar to the way that the hybrids were a thing. Like everybody had a hybrid because it was better for the environment, and then and then
I
they were
definitely
targets because
right. I definitely saw lots of douchey people with their Priuses. There was a lot of a douchey attitude that was coming from some Prius owners. But I knew at least one Prius owner who was very excited to buy a Prius. It was like his first like bought car, and he was a nice guy. But I definitely have met plenty of douchey Prius owners. So I totally get that, and I totally get that there is sort of there is some kind of aesthetic or attitude about people who own fancy cars. I don't think it's unique to Teslas, though Teslas do sort of tack into that category. So my whole point was I recognize that there is sort of a magnifying glass on me for those who look at the car like it's a douche-mobile, and that the person who's driving it must be a douche.
Yeah, it's mostly for the earlier Teslas, like when they were like more rare to see.
Sure.
Right. So.
But they're now more common, and as I said before, in this area.
Yeah, they're
showing up, and there's a lot more. And this is also part of why I was like, I got to join one of these owner clubs. And it also turns out there's a small community. I know I'm going to go out and run errands today, and I'm probably going to see the same 7 around. I was at last month.
You all shop at the same time.
It's weird because there is one particular person who is literally like leaving the market as I'm coming in, and as I'm leaving, the other person is literally going to the market as I'm coming in, and it's just interesting that so I was at I got my haircut, or I did something where I was in a store for a little bit, and I came out. And when I went in, the parking lot was pretty full, and I came out, the parking lot was less full, right? But another Tesla pulled up and parked right next to me, right? They went out of their way to like park next to another Tesla. So I think there is generally a community to be had, and it would be good to know some of these other people roaming around.
So if you keep seeing the same people, are you sure you're not in some sort of Truman Show type situation then?
No, because the one thing is there are Teslas, but they're a couple default colors, and there isn't a lot of variety, and they all look the same, right? So I don't know. I mean, it's the same kind of thing. Like if you finally buy a fancy car and you buy a really nice BMW, you're going to pay attention to all the BMWs that you see, right? Mm-hmm. Especially if it's the same kind of model. And I think that's also, it's a decision, right? When you can do it, people who buy and like Audis, there's a certain kind of mindset for a person who wants to buy an Audi or a Mercedes or a BMW. They're seeking a certain kind of quality of a car, but then they're also seeking a very specific brand. And I think there's something to be said about that. In the case of EVs, I think there's also an additional thing to be said about that. That I think is like I said, it's like a lifestyle choice, but I think it is. It's a particular choice. Why do it when you can do other things, right? You know, I think that's an active thought and choice when people do it. So,
are you done with the Tesla?
Yeah, I was done. I was done probably 5 minutes ago.
So you said you were streaming for UMACon?
Yeah, UMACon is they're a convention in Michigan, Detroit, Michigan, in the U.S. And because all AnimeCons I don't know all of them, but most of them are going virtual this year, including like Otakon as an example. UMACon, someone who is staff at UMACon is also in the Discord, right? Brandon, he said like, I always wanted to invite you guys, but I knew you guys would never come, right, physically to our con in Detroit. I said, but this year we're virtual. could you do something for us? And so that turned around into me finally figuring out, spending some time with OBS and figuring out how to do it with everyone being remote. And we did something, and we did like a 90-minute, OG for YumaCon. So
Okay.
yeah.
And you stream that to Twitch, or you stream to Discord, and what do you do?
So I used OBS like we were going to be streamer doing it live, just kind of like how we do it anyways. And I just recorded it locally because they didn't want to do live streams. They just wanted to do pre-recorded material so they could better control and better buffer sort of their virtual con experience.
Okay, so there was no interaction with people.
No, though you could watch it as it was being streamed live to Twitch, and you could see, the interactivity with all the chat room stuff. So, which is interesting.
So you were streaming it to Twitch.
They streamed it to Twitch, but the pre-recorded content.
Oh, okay. So the entire episode was basically just pre-recorded.
And they put it they framed it, and they had like a running banner and stuff like that with information and schedule, stuff like that. So, and I released that to people on Patreon, or Patreon. So, all patrons got a copy.
Oh, special.
Yeah, so I got my feet wet with it, at least down here, and that doesn't include
that's
any
recording.
Yeah, that was recording, but I used the Stream Deck, right? Actually, yeah, I did. The Stream Deck, the 15 key one came in time, and I literally pushed buttons. Rigged up with OBS, so it's pretty smooth. It was pretty good.
Yeah, Stream Deck is wonderful. I have a couple of them. I have the XL. I have the 15, and I have another 15. Do I have another one?
Yeah, I don't have the
two
XL.
15s and an XL.
Yeah,
and I really love it.
I have 4 of them. I have a 15 down here that's connected to this system for the case of like this remote connection, and then eventually, if we ever resume recording in person together, I'll eventually figure out what I'm doing with cameras in here, and then I will still probably buy an ATEM, and I'll rig all of that up, and I'll do OBS, and maybe we'll even do some live streaming, for patrons. Still undecided exactly what I'm going to do with that, but I will probably be using that 15 key in response to that. And then I have the minis. I have another 15 upstairs and a spare mini now.
Yeah, so if you have like the XL, I love the fact that you can put so much on like one screen, like as like physical buttons. I think the whole physical button part of this is the important part, because it triggers something in your brain, like you're pushing the button, you're making the action happen. It's not just a touch screen where you don't get any feedback. I think the pushing of the button, for me, is important for the action that I do. I have the 32. I love it. There's I have shortcuts for Clip Studio, stuff like that. And like the applications that I run, I have you can do multi-actions where I can just have get everything ready for a stream. Just push the button and all the applications launch that I need. It's wonderful.
I mostly did it for scene switching, right? That's kind of what I use it for. So I made a scene for everyone's remote camera, and obviously one for me with a lower third on it with our name. And then I had basically built a quad that had, little OGN logo in the corner. And in the case of Matt, he didn't want to have any webcam. I literally bought a webcam for him, and he's like, especially when they're really hard to get now. And he's like, no, I don't want a webcam. I was like, okay. So I took a good picture of him that he was making a face of me at some Otakon, and I used that, and I put little VU bars up for all of us. So it's a great picture. He's giving this look.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, and I used OBS Ninja. Have you played with this?
No, I have Streamlabs, and I have the normal OBS.
Right. So I use OBS Ninja for everyone's remote cam, and we still recorded, the audio side.
Okay, so it's like
Skype.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can do sharing your screen. We did this for a moment, but then Paul sort of gave up like 5 minutes into, because he was gonna, pick. We were talking about sort of sports anime, and so he was gonna show particular different art right from each of the shows, as he he had found everything, and he was gonna put it up on a remote screen and put that up, and I made that again another scene to switch to, and then after like 2 times he like gave up caring.
Yeah,
so I never switched to them.
So OBS Ninja uses
RTC.
Yeah,
WebRTC, and it's free. And so we did a normal audio with Skype, and then we did the camera connection with that, and then I rigged them up into scenes, and then I rigged up a quad, and then I could switch between people who were talking, and then I did basically an analyzer for the audio over on Matt's corner of the quad. So so it worked out. It was pretty good, and yeah. So I think that could be a thing that we do more often on OG, but probably not. Our normal recording is going to be our normal recording. If we do something live, it's not like we're going to send it to Twitch. What I might do is I'll send it to YouTube unlisted, and then I'll plug that in Patreon.
Okay. How does OBS Ninja work with like syncing of audio?
So you can do it with the WebRTC. You have some control over that. In fact, when you connect it up with OBS, you just made basically a browser.
It's
a browser
an
component
app, right?
Right, and then what you can do there is it even has options to let OBS control the audio versus you controlling it, via the browser.
Yeah, more like I'm asking more like syncing the audio with the video.
So what I did, it turned out fine. We did our normal connection on Skype, and then they connected up their camera on OBS Ninja. And then what I did is I turned on the virtual cam for OBS, and I made my camera for them to Skype. And so that way they could keep concert, maybe like a second delay or something, but they keep concert of what was going on.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and it worked out great for us. And so that worked out, and got my feet wet with that. Now I just need to start doing it upstairs as well.
More setups, yay!
Yeah, but at least I have another Stream Deck upstairs. I have another 15 keys, so that will be useful.
So when are you gonna go for the 32?
I'm not there yet, and I already have the mini I was using upstairs. It basically is in spare now, so I have a spare six key. I know you can connect more than one on the system, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not there yet.
32.
What I do down here with this other 6 key is usually connected when the laptop is docked. I use it for playback. Right.
Yeah, so, I wouldn't know what the Stream Deck with 6 keys would be useful for.
What I use it for upstairs and definitely here, it's perfect. You create a folder, and then in that folder I have enough, you basically have 5 options, and that's been plenty. And if I needed more, I would create a second folder. So I'd back out and do a second folder with 5 more options.
Yeah.
And that's been plenty. And then upstairs, what I did is I created a folder for, like controlling basic lights, 5 of them. And then I had other folder for each, like a set of folders to launch folders or do podcast apps and groupings or whatever it is. And then when I moved to the 15 key upstairs, I literally just have an expanded folder for the hue lights. And I've basically filled up all the keys but like 2. And then the other ones are kind of small, right? The podcasting, the audio editing, they're like, it's very much unused, but I use it mostly for the lighting controls upstairs.
Well, you'll if as soon as you have like you're using it more, you're gonna fill it up pretty quickly.
Sure, yeah. But I also used to organizing things, grouping one team to group things into a folder, right? I want to sort of group them together, right? I don't want all the buttons with Hue Lights plus podcast. No. There's a podcasting folder, and then in the podcasting folder is the corresponding links and apps. Actually, when I think about it, I did fill that one mostly up because it has a lot of links, like creating a new post patron link, right? The Libsyn link, the website link, the OG link, that kind of like all that stuff. So I filled mostly 2 of those folders up, and then the other 2 are fairly empty.
But I use it for like posting tweets and stuff. For like, hey, I'm streaming. This is the like posting a picture of like the screen and stuff. That's very useful.
I haven't done anything crazy like that yet.
But it's more useful, for example, for people that actually stream. So
right.
Yeah.
And I will upstairs. I'll definitely create a folder for streaming actions upstairs when I decide to start doing that more actively.
Yeah. You also got a new phone?
Yeah. The Pixel 5 finally showed up. It showed up a week earlier than expected, but it showed up, and it's physically smaller.
The question is, do you have a gap?
I do not have a gap.
Okay, so that's not normal then.
And more importantly, I put it in a case. So I finally have wireless charging. Okay, so here's a couple.
You don't have room for pop socket, right?
Yeah, so the thing is, the wireless charging and the pop sockets don't work, and I'm so used to holding my phone through the pop socket. Once you have it, you're used to it, and I've had it for so many years through the different phones, and it creates enough separation space where you can't do that. So you can buy, I think even PopSocket makes a wireless charger that, has literally an impression in it where it'll fit when collapsed. So you can do your wireless charging, but then that won't work in the car, right? So I just have to get used to it. I thought about buying one of those, I bought one of those little fabric loop things, and even those couple millimeters of separation off the wireless pad still won't charge. Plus, also, a pop socket is round, 360 degrees of connection anywhere where you grab it, where those fabric loops only come from one side. They're either vertical or horizontal. So yeah. I'm pop socket-less on this phone.
Cut to, he drops his phone.
Yeah. Well, I got the case for it, so that's good.
That's what the purse for.
So it's slightly smaller. I'm getting used to the pinhole. It's interesting how it shifts everything that's up on that screen, on the normal sort of window shade, where your time is and everything. So I'm getting used to that. It being there, always being present.
So you have a little cutout. There's a hole in it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Instead of it being sort of notched out, it's just sort of in the corner there. I always hate corner cams because they're sort of they're skewed on an angle.
When you look, I have the Android. I have a Nokia 7.2.
Right. Okay.
And you can see the little thing on the top, the little notch thing.
Yeah.
So I don't have a hole in the screen. I just have a little teardrop thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even notice it anymore.
I would figure that one would be less disruptive because most things don't float into that space.
Yeah.
Where it's present.
Where's the little hole in the?
It's in the corner.
Oh wow, that's bad.
That takes a moment to get used to, and I reckon I notice it is there something on my? Oh right, no, it's the camera. So. It doesn't irritate me, but it takes a moment. I keep noticing it.
You need to make an app where it's it makes tiny little cracks that run from that point, or adds feet, moving feet, it's some sort of spider. It's like an overlay that comes onto your screen.
Right. Yeah. Spooky time.
And a little spider crawls out or something like that.
It's physically smaller. Which is, it feels small in comparison. It's still active in my brain. I think I've only had this thing for maybe a few weeks now. The sort of the camera, little square, right? Sometimes when I'm used to a bigger fingerprint reader. So
Hmm.
I basically, from the Pixel 2 to the Pixel 5, so I skipped every iteration where they removed it altogether. I like the fingerprint reader over other options, but the thing is, it's smaller. That part irritates me.
Oh, okay.
And so before, because I had a bigger fingerprint reader, I could just sort of approximately put my finger in the back there, and the camera on the previous phone was a lot smaller. So now you can see how the two things are sort of badged very close together. Can you see that in the webcam? No, not at all. But so it's very easy to overlean and put your finger on the sort of the camera badge area. So getting used to that, I'm more or less used to that. And then wireless charging, and it's physically smaller. But otherwise, it's great. It's been good.
Yeah.
It's interesting on the it doesn't exist on my Pixel 2, but or maybe I just never knew how to turn it on, but it does exist on the Pixel 5, the screen calling, which has been great when all the election scams and frauds, were calling my phone, lighting it up all
Shenanigans.
day. Yeah. So I could just go, oh, screen call. And then they stop calling. I could evaluate if it's like legitimately something, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
So speaking of election shenanigans, that's been a bit of a fustercluck, as they like to call it.
It was a stressful week.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
not
it was
just
very
not just for
distracting.
the U.S.
I know. I noticed.
Twitter became unusable for anybody outside
Yeah,
of the U.S.
I don't look at Twitter that much, so it didn't really affect me
Yeah, but
personally.
if you're like posting like pictures for like Halloween, and then suddenly
Right, I
everybody that needs
understand.
to retweet it needs to check the links, needs to check the thing, and they don't allow retweets, or suddenly they need to be quote tweets, and you don't see the retweets,
Mm,
and
right, I
like
understand.
Twitter became unusable for like a week or two, I guess, like from Halloween basically till last Saturday, Sunday.
I noticed how people outside the U.S. were keenly interested in the leadership of the U.S. when basically Obama became president, and actually prior to Obama becoming president, it seemed like people outside the U.S. took a very strong interest, not just from like we're the royal family, not like royal family in like England kind of interest.
Well, it's starting to
Uh,
look like that anyway, but
sure, right. It's its own problem per whatever rant I was making earlier. It's been a long running issue for a while. So it's just interesting how a lot of people outside the U.S. Care about what's happening here, and they are as stressed out about it as people who live here. Yeah, and so it's very hard not to be distracted and feel a sense of stress. I totally was eating my feelings quite
yeah,
a bit
there
that
was
week,
I
whether I
think
was
I
paying
think the
attention
reason
to
is
it.
because there's a lot of more connectedness in the world right now because we
Sure,
have the
right.
internet and stuff. So there's a lot of people that know people in the U.S. that like to
Mm-hmm.
see like they you know don't
Right.
get messed up, or right. So there's I think there's part of that that's in there. That's why there's a big connection.
But I
Also,
think there's also
and
some
also,
larger things that get attached to it, and maybe I have a unique perspective, given now that I know more people that care about, um, getting about as carbon free or carbon neutral as possible. But I think there's definitely way more active conversation about that, and initiatives and who you vote for and stuff has a lot of relationship to that. Even if you're the opposing party, there is a lot of more conscious activity and talk about who you elect based on those kinds of initiatives, right?
well,
And
and there was also the whole Rona situation. I
right, and then
mean,
there's
like
that.
that
Yeah.
has all those like the U.S. currently has a lot of people with corona, and it's still going around, and there's a lot of stuff happening. We just had a second wave. It's actually dying down right now, but like if people would have reacted earlier or like let the lockdown happen a little bit longer, that would have prevented some stuff from happening. But like that's I think that's also a problem, because like the U.S. currently, the administration that's currently in charge, it has some let's say interesting concepts of science. Let's just
Or
leave it at
lack
that.
of.
Well, alternative facts, right?
Yeah. Well, so there've been some trending observations that I've noticed from the whole start. Um, the whole point was that the operating government wasn't operating well, and there's a lot of truth and then a lot of very easy to play alternative facts being sort of lit up for the convenience of politics. And so that what I'm getting at here is there's now a current administration trying to just disrupt the previous patterns and behaviors of all administrations. Okay, yeah, I get it. But one of those was very obvious, that the current administration, or at least the individual who is leading it right now, clearly wants to be the permanent leader of the U.S., right? This dictatorship pattern. And this happens in other countries, and it never goes well. I don't think we've ever seen it where it's gone well. And I think this administration is still trying to lean us in this direction for this one individual. And the rest of the country is like, or at least half the country is like, yeah, no, not going to happen. And so that's the battle that we're in the middle of.
Yeah.
And this is not going to go away. We get to March. You shared a video with me that was from the Netherlands. It was like spot on. And the thing is, like, I don't talk about politics, and even among other individuals that care about certain initiatives, I'm finding that I'm not alone. That I don't really out what my particular position is on stuff, but I get a pretty common feeling from people that we all roughly agree that there are some really important things that need to change, and the current administration doesn't care, only if it makes them look good, and even then, when that happens, they still don't really care, right? It's all about the theatrics than it is about actually doing anything.
So the last couple of weeks, like during the election night, I stayed up till. So for you, like when you guys headed into midnight, was 6 o'clock in the morning for me. Like
Right.
during the evening, I was watching like the first like results come in, and I had my laptop on my nightstand, watching it, and then I couldn't sleep because I was also doing maintenance stuff. Um, and I just couldn't sleep the rest of the night just because there was stuff happening in this. I had a dream at some point that the man was angry with the Netherlands and he was gonna nuke it. So that was wonderful. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, that is an act of concern, but
well,
here's the thing.
especially
I stayed pretty disciplined through the whole week, and the only times I paid any kind of attention to it was in the evening when I wasn't working, and I was stressed, but I was not obsessed about it. But I was stressed, and then definitely into the weekend, right? I mean, I had like a Tesla meetup that I was hosting, the first one for us, and it was good to have like a little bit of escape for a few hours in the morning. But I will admit that it was kind of extra stressful feeling all the way till Monday, you know.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I felt it, and I recognize my need to continually want to be snacking right? I was eating my feelings, right? I
Okay.
was,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. I mean, I recognize when I'm stressed out or something is going on, like my patterns and my habits, and like I don't need to keep eating popcorn, but I want to,
Yeah.
because I'm clearly still stressed about it, right? So like we knew what the news was Saturday morning and Sunday and Monday, but do we really?
Yeah. So the thing is that like the whole CNN, I was watching. I had CNN on because they had. That's the only one they did live streams. So that was easy for me to follow. And like the whole, like they make it a whole theater. Like it's a whole. I don't know what it
Oh
is.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's good ratings, is what it is. I
Yeah,
think
it was interesting.
I think my therapy, whether it was active or not, was there was a TV show in the U.S. on HBO called The Newsroom, and I think it's like 2012 era, and it starts out with this 8-minute scene where it speaks to what was occurring previous to 2012 and actively at the moment. And if you fast forward it up today in 2020, you watch that scene and those first whatever 8 minutes still speaks like volumes. And so prior to all this stuff, I was looking for some kind of show that I could watch for a little bit. It was only like an hour long. So I didn't, have an extended TV period after work where I'm like, up to like actively awake or something. I just wanted something that was good, I could put on, and then had enough material that I could run for an hour or something like that. And so Newsroom fit in that pocket. It's also an Aaron Sorkin series. I like Aaron Sorkin. So it all worked out. And it is a good series, in my opinion. So I was watching it. And then there are moments that are still speaking volumes today. And this thing is like in the range of time anywhere from 8 to 6 years old. And there was this one episode in the last season about basically it was basically a climate change episode where they had some
Hmm.
character about EPA. And there's this moment that's real comical. There's a whole build up in this episode, and we finally get to the moment where the news anchor is having this open conversation with this individual, and whether the guy intentionally is being funny or not, he's very funny. But the news anchor says, "Well, okay, well, what should we do to prevent these things?" He's like, "Well, 20 years ago, if we turned off, we started doing these things, it would have been great." And he goes, "All right, well, then what can we expect?" And he goes, "Well, in the next few years," and he rattles off a whole bunch of stuff. And these are all the things that have been happening. And then you can insert an image of not Blade Runner, but San Francisco because of all the wildfires.
Hmm.
Right? And so he rattled off a whole thing. And again, that scene in that moment is still at least 4 or 5 years old.
And it's called The Newsroom.
Yeah, Newsroom. It's on HBO.
Okay.
Now,
If you have something like if you want to zone out from like TV for a bit, or like news for a bit, there is a show on Prime at the moment called Truth Seekers. It's very funny. It's with the what is it funny? Yeah, it takes certain things serious and some certain things are funny.
okay.
It's you've seen Shaun of the Dead?
Oh, I have, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the big guy with the beard,
Yeah, yeah. What is that guy's
Nick
name?
Frost.
Nick Frost. Yeah, I
Yeah.
knew it was Nick something. I just
Yeah,
couldn't
so-
remember the last name.
Nick Frost and what's the other guy's name?
Simon Pegg?
Simon Pegg. Yeah. They made there's a new series on Amazon called Truth Seekers, and it's about paranormal investigators, and they go out and they try to find ghosts, and it's tied into like they're rolling out 6G. sorts of stuff. It's funny. It's
All right,
he's
I'll take a
an
look.
installer. It's actually it's just eight episodes. So actually, it's when you don't see Simon Pegg that much. He's like a couple of scenes. I think
Well,
it's because he's busy with other things. But
he's been doing a lot of other things. I know, like The Mandalorian came back, right? So we're in the season 2, so we only get a new show every week. So we're in 3 episodes in the season 2, and I am pretty positive he's like playing, characters who are completely like masked up. Right,
okay,
like he's playing an alien or something, right? You don't know he's in the suit. He certainly was in the last movie, right? The last franchise movie, Star Wars movie.
was he Simon Pegg?
So yeah, pretty sure. And he's showing up in places like that intentionally. In fact, who was it that I saw? Was it this? I think it was definitely a voice I recognized. That was in the most recent Mandalorian episode. I feel like, big star actors are intentionally showing up in The Mandalorian.
Okay.
Whether they're playing a character where you could recognize their voice or see their face.
Well, I haven't seen the new season yet. I'm waiting on until Disney posts the last episode. Then I'll do a month of Disney Plus, and then I'll be done with it.
Got you.
So turn it off again.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only thing I'm really actively watching on it.
Have you seen the new Borat movie?
I just can't. I can't do Borat. I don't like Borat.
There's so much
can't
cringe
do
in it.
it.
Yes.
I just
the
can't
cringe
do
is
it.
just too
Yeah,
loud.
I think I watched the previous whatever version, and I just couldn't do it. I don't want to pay for it. I don't, even if you give it to me for free, I just can't do it.
Well, it's on Prime and it's free, so
Yeah, I just can't do it. Can't do it. I'm sure I would like the person, but I don't like his character. Right?
yeah, his character is
I
like
just can't
there's
do
so
it.
much cringe that drips off him. It's like
Yeah,
it's hard to
just-
watch at some
It's
points.
obnoxious. I just can't deal with it.
Yeah. It was an interesting watch. I'd skip through parts of it because it was just too
much.
over the edge. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's lots of content on there on these streaming sites these days. That's I watched the Utopia. You seen that one?
No, I think I've been avoiding it. I think I watched like a trailer or maybe parts of an episode or something, and I'm like, yeah, this is totally not for me. I have been enjoying the new Star Trek Discovery season. That's
Oh
been
yeah,
real
yeah.
good.
I saw the latest one I saw was
Because season 3 is they're into 5,
with the
maybe.
Trill. I think the last one I saw was the Trill.
Okay, so there's a new episode for you to see.
Yeah.
It's good. It's real good. I'm enjoying it. This is the Star Trek I've been looking for.
Well, it's
even
better
though
than
we-
season 2, that's for sure.
Season 2 had some problems. Season 1 was pretty good, but it was sort of then got off course, and then season 2 kind of dragged it back, and then they completely just went off a completely different kind of set of rails, and then we've course corrected back into season 3, which is good. So we'll see. I also finished like the 100
Oh, okay.
finally. I don't
I
recommend it.
zoned out after like a couple of episodes of that show.
Yeah,
It's
no.
Like, oh, I don't want to watch this.
It has these great moments in its framework of good ideas and good sci-fi, but it's not consistent, and it's just ruined by CW's insertion of insistence of their own kind of teeny bopper. This is how we get ratings formula.
Oh, James, I'm pregnant.
Yeah, I did the click.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's
Yeah.
like there's an episode of Stargate that specifically calls that stuff out. There with
Right.
the alternative
mob
versions of like where they had like
Uh-huh.
when they do the Stargate SG-1, but they're like all teens. And
Right.
they're like,
Yeah. But that was that. Yeah, there's a.
That's one of the 100 episodes. Yes.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, those are good. Those are really good episodes. Yeah, I don't know. That's the problem. It's such a it's so ruined. The risks that they take are good, and then they're also useless at the same time. Okay.
I watched.
Yeah.
I was re-listening to The Expanse.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
going
that's
through the
coming back in
books
December.
again, through the next book, and I think that season 5 is going to be Nemesis Games, which is going to be like that book is called Nemesis Games. I think even one of the episodes is called Nemesis Games, but like. I'm at the point where I'm going to go into that book now, but then I heard that they're going to be releasing them weekly. It's like they're going to post the first 3 episodes and then the rest of them are going to be weekly, which is... I really hate that. I understand why they're doing it.
Oh, because so
but they're
you can
trying to
marathon
put
it.
it so you keep subscribed. But like
Right.
right, and they're trying to frame it like, oh yes, because people ask for it. No.
I don't know how I was watching it before. I thought I was only watching it weekly.
No, they came, yeah, on Sci-Fi it was weekly, but they dropped as like one binge-worthy thing. And like last
Maybe.
season was just the entire season was on Prime all at once. Season 4 on Prime once. Yep. I love it.
Well, that's coming back in December. I'm in this void where for like a month, I don't really have anything to sort of marathon. I found myself sort of looking at things on Netflix.
Oh yeah, I
and all
tried
the
that too,
streaming
but
services
it's
and
so
stuff
bad.
that I have. We are going to run out of the sort of the constant backlog that we've had for decades of content that was always in production. We're just going to run thin on that because productions are basically extra difficult to make. You know,
Yeah, but
Hollywood is
there's
going
still a
through
lot
a
of shows you
process.
haven't seen yet, right? So you can still, watch those.
Yeah, but also it's mood when the mood strikes, right? I'm more likely to want to be interested in something that's sci-fi than, there was it High School and Connected. There were a couple of those on Netflix where I guess I don't mind them, but I'm just not interested in them constantly.
Yeah.
So there were a couple that, like I said, yeah, I'm never gonna finish the rest of this. Right? That kind of stuff.
So what do you think about the animes that have been going on Netflix and on Prime? What do you think of those?
So they're hit or miss, right? There isn't, and the same thing goes with. So in the case of Crunchyroll, what you can understand about Crunchyroll is they're not licensing for quality. They're just licensing,
Yeah.
right? And Netflix is trying to go about a certain way to license for a specific aesthetic, right? Or original, Netflix original, where they're putting some money into it, whether they're putting all the money in or it's like a joint effort with, like, for example, Stargate. Stargate was a joint effort or jointly funded by the Sci-Fi Channel and CBC, right? For example. And I think originally it was a CBC production. It might have been, I think, originally. Well, actually, it was originally Showtime, and then they dropped it, and then I think CBC put money in, and Sci-Fi picked it up. Anyhow, so the point is that not all these things, even though it has Netflix original branding on it, sometimes it's not completely a Netflix original. It is more so lately, but it hasn't always been the case. So I saw something, looked like a wartime movie. I don't really know what it is, and I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but it looked like they sort of put a cartoon filter over a live action filming.
Oh wow.
And it looks interesting, but I'm not sure that I care about the story or the content, or I was in the mood to watch it last night, but I noticed it was on Netflix for me to watch. So there are some good series that are showing up on Prime and they're showing up on Netflix, but then there's some that are just like aesthetically ugly in their animation, or aesthetically interesting in their animation, but the story's not so good. The one I think of is like Knights of Sidonia. for example.
Hmm.
And then there's the same thing with Hulu. They pick up whatever they can get.
Hmm.
Right. Made in Abyss is on Prime. It still probably is on Prime. That one's pretty good. That one gets dark. I have not finished it, and so that's something I could watch. I haven't. I have in my queue with the intention to watch it, just like I do for a lot of things on Crunchyroll. The Great Pretender on Netflix. I can't recall what that was about though, but I did bookmark it.
I did remember a show called The Pretender a long time ago.
Yeah, but I don't think it was an anime.
No, it was definitely not an anime, but it was
Was
really...
that one of those USA shows, USA Network shows?
It was a guy that could pretend to be any job. So he'd go in, be the job, and then he was abducted by aliens or something really weird.
There was an anime like that, I thought.
No, maybe they made an anime out of it.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was a TV show in like the 1996. Oh wow, it ran for 4 years. Wow.
Hmm. Well, in this case, definitely through the election, TV has been also therapeutic for me. But I'm in this weird pocket where
Bringing it back.
Where I don't have anything now that I'm out of newsroom. I really don't have anything to marathon. I started to take a look at the Perry Mason bit on HBO, and I think it's a little too gritty for me because there's a scene. You might be okay with it, but like for me, I didn't love certain moments. It's very well themed in like the Art Deco kind of era of like I guess the 1920s, 1930s. I guess the original Perry Mason. Apparently, it was a lot darker than the kind of TV show that showed up on network TV in the U.S. So I don't know. Like for example, The Boys. The Boys gets gritty and dark, but they handle it really well.
I haven't seen the last season yet.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I've been putting it off because I don't have I'm currently doing a lot of stuff for the book, so I don't really have time to watch. And what was that show that we were talking about where you were like, oh yeah, that's too gritty for me? Oh, Utopia.
Yeah, I'm not into... So generally for me, horror things...
I don't think it's
drug
not
things
horror.
and dystopia things. I'm just not interested in.
It's none of that.
Yeah.
It's not horror, but there's some really like where The Boys is violent. This was like there's like moments in there where it was like, wow, you did this. You really did this.
Mm-hmm.
So
like last night I was watching the Perry Mason thing, and it was just looking for an hour of something so that I could go to sleep because I was tired. And there's a moment where, and this is like the murder mystery, so to speak, that's what Perry Mason is. But there's a moment that involves a kid, and the kid was basically murdered. I mean, you're not going to be watching this episode, so I'm ruining for everyone else who this series has been out for maybe a couple months, I think at the very least. So maybe I'm not really ruining it. It's the first episode, and the perpetrators basically sewed the kid's eyes open. Right, that was too disturbing for me.
Oh, okay. It's like the same thing that happened to Hannibal.
They didn't just imply it. They didn't just show it for a moment, which they did the first time. No. They had an extended moment related to it, and that was just too much for me. And there was a couple other times where it was like that, where it was like that's just a little too much for me. It's a little too gritty, a little too dark.
I was watching Hannibal. You seen that show?
I mean, I've seen the movie and I never watched the show because the same kind of thing. It was just a little.
Yeah, there was some stuff in there with mushrooms. And I was like, yep, nope, I'm out.
Right, and then in the movie, you
and I'm not squeamish about things. I'm not squeamish about it, but they
suit and stuff like that.
Oh
like
yes.
I'm just like not for me. Other people, fine, but not for me. I don't. It's not that like I'm freaked out by it. It's just like I don't really want to be putting my active attention on it, especially if the whole point of the show is to go there a lot. And there are definitely shows that are wired in their whole design to go there a lot, not occasionally.
Yeah.
Right? In the case of The Boys, they go there, but not exactly the same way.
Yeah. So if you're thinking about what I've been doing is I've been watching some live streams of people the stuff that they recorded and then put on YouTube, like longer form streams, like they're playing games like Among Us or stuff like that. That's fun. It's a lot of fun. Phasmophobia, one of the things I've been watching a lot. People doing like going ghost hunting in the game. A lot of fun. I've actually been playing it as well. It's a lot of fun. It's my brother really doesn't like me asking him to play with him because he doesn't like it at all. He's just, okay, I'm just gonna stick in the van. Okay, so you're just let me do all the work. Okay, but I've been watching Bones.
Oh, classic TV show.
Yeah, just watching old TV shows. I've seen most of them already. Like
I used to watch it a lot. I like that show, but then there was an ever abundance of stuff basically piling up on my TiVo that I never got around to watching, so I just sort of stopped watching it.
And some of the stuff in there, stuff in there did not age well.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure there's a lot of things that are like that. I often have moments where I think about the TV show House, though I don't know how well that ages either.
What I noticed in Bones is that there's lots of they have like these musical bits where they have like music, like transitions.
Mm-hmm.
They play some music and they do like they're doing the work. This is the work doing music, and they use like music of the time. They felt like they were hip at the time, but like that's old music now, and it feels so weird. So there's some
some
phones and stuff that were using them, and flip phones. I mean, okay, man, that's so old.
What was interesting to me is there is a key character or actress in the TV show The 100, and previously, prior to The 100, there is The Newsroom, and there's that same actress, completely different kind of character, of course, playing a character, and I never put the two together. So it's just interesting how over a course of time, I don't know, that there's like some gap there, and I don't really exactly remember where I was going with that, so I'm going to stop talking about it.
Anyway, so Rona situation here in the Netherlands has gone weird. I think they're releasing some of the restrictions that they have put in place to stem the rise. So we had about a 10,000 a day positive count for the thing at some point. And then now we're at like 4,000 somewhat a day. So it's going down, but like they're already releasing the restrictions, and I think they should just keep it going for another 2 weeks. We're dealing with the situation. Let's just get it down to 0. Let's do 0. How about that? Just 0.
They finally released one for Pennsylvania, and it was interesting when I turned on the new phone. There is an immediate recommendation for a COVID alert Pennsylvania app. So I downloaded it, and it just basically has simple things where the first time it takes you through like a check-in. You can do a check-in where you can say, yeah, I'm good, no symptoms, or one where it asks you questions and gives me statistics. So I don't check in on every day, but every once in a while I think about it, and it gives me real-time statistics from my area.
Yeah, I can't really see that because it's a blurry
It's
white.
all washed out, yeah. Yeah, but it's just interesting. It out of the almost 500,000, about 473 users since the app has been launched, and I don't know when that was. So, it's nearly 500,000 people, at least in Pennsylvania, that are using the app.
Yeah,
96% say that they're okay.
so the thing here is that we have the government like there's a Corona app, and
Hmm.
it ties into those Apple and Android um, systems,
Yeah.
and they have a link with the health department basically, so you can say, okay, so this is my code, and then they
Hmm.
can trigger a send out like, hey, this person was infected,
Right.
trigger everybody in the last certain period to have themselves checked out. I haven't had an alert yet, so I haven't been in contact with anybody. But there's also the case that I don't go outside, so there's that. I do have it on my iPhone, but I don't have it on my Android because I think that the iPhone restrictions of like what it's allowed to do, is a bit tighter than it is on Android. And Android is like
Hmm.
the permissions you need to give it on Android is a bit much, and
Actually,
on iPhone is like
they've revised a lot of that in the
no.
newer
Like
editions.
I understand, but like the
Yeah.
specific application that the government made in the
Oh,
Netherlands,
got you.
like that
They always want
application
it on.
requires like
Yeah.
a bazillion
Permissions or
permissions.
whatever.
It's
Yeah.
not good.
Interesting. Yeah. In that case, that's one of those things where I want it to be on. I also, it's funny because some new friends, other new Tesla friends, one of them asked, he's like, so I shared some pictures, right? The same pictures I shared basically everywhere. And he's like, oh, that looks great. That person whoever did this ceramic coating did a good job. And then he just sort of followed up because there was supposed to be a meetup today that this other group had canceled just to be wise about sort of the weather and lockdown and just to be smart about it. And so he was just checking in with me to like just to confirm that he also saw that was canceled, and because he wasn't keeping up on it. And then he asked me about, so have you taken the car out? And some small part of me was looking forward to showing other Tesla people, oh yeah, I got the ceramic coating. What do you think? Because some of those people saw me last weekend, and so they could, see the difference. And I haven't had any reason to leave. I have not driven all week, so I basically won't have driven the car for like a full 6 days until sometime after we're done, I'm going to go run my errands. But I've not seen the car out in the wild. So I'm generally home, and except for small, brief moments of interaction with neighbors, and my roommate, that's it. My exposure risk is very incredibly low, you know.
Hmm. So I also upgraded my computer. I have an art PC, and I bought a new case and some fans and the new power supply and all sorts of other stuff related to it, and it's magical. It's the same case I have for the game PC.
Mm-hmm.
Although I think that this PC is slightly smaller. Yeah, I think this case is slightly smaller.
Yeah,
But
I
it's the
want
Meshify
to.
C Mini, and I put in my video card. Oh, I also bought a new video card.
Did you buy one of the 3000
No,
series?
no, I bought a 1660 Super.
Oh, okay, got you.
I'm like, I don't need RTX. I don't need it. So I plugged I should have put the 1660 Super in my art PC, but I put it into my game PC because I play more games on that machine, and I put
Mm-hmm.
the 1060 I had in my game PC into my art PC
Got you.
because the hardware encoding for OBS and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to put an NVIDIA card in there because the 460, the RX 460 wasn't that great. The hardware encoding didn't work that well, so I had to put on software encoding for that, and that's
Yeah, I definitely have a plan in mind to build a new PC, but I just have been sort of locked down on spending money. But I spent some money for ceramic coating, and then there have just been a couple other things where I just need this and I need that, and I'm going to work on this. I'm going to work on that little tiny project. And so I've spent a little money. So I'm sort of competing with money's coming in. Then I spend a little, not the bulk of it, but a good percentage of it. And then money trickles in, and then I spend some money again. And it's just sort of like I gotta get out of that complete pattern, but I'm working on things, right? It's not
I think I've spent about $700, like
Yeah.
euros, on the new case, the fans, the new
Right.
GPU, the power supply, the motherboard, the processor, the memory. I bought another stick of memory because I didn't buy a kit, but I bought like one stick of memory and I thought it was a kit. So that was kind of annoying. Then it was like single channel memory, and that's not great. It did work. It just wasn't great. So now I have 32 gigs of memory in my Art PC, which is way overkill for what I need. I think like I ran the when I do the streams, I go up to like 10 to 20% CPU usage. Like there's no, and then there's the memory usage. Like there's 32 gigs in there, and there's like 5, 6 gigs in use.
Right. Yeah. I have even on my
Even though
laptop.
I've got like several documents open in Clip Studio that are pretty big. Like when I used to run on the old machine, I realize now that the memory speed for the PC that I had was so slow that it was really bottlenecking like
Oh, it
everything. And
makes all the difference.
like the new processor, even with like my 6700K, the Intel machine, even that one, it was great for streaming and doing the thing. I couldn't play games on it because there was a tablet attached to it, but it was wonderful. I could like do artwork at 4K, right? It was wonderful. And then even that showed me like, oh, I really have to go buy a new PC for artwork. But I could spend
Yeah.
a lot of money on it, or I could just buy a new motherboard and buy some memory and buy motherboard, CPU, and memory. That's what I bought at first.
Right.
Like I
Yeah.
spent like I think $300, and I just put it into the same case with the same power supply as the old machine. It just took the motherboard
Yeah.
out of the old machine, took the SSD. Oh, I also bought an SSD on it. One of these M.2 things, and that it was wonderful. Only thing was it looked butt ugly because it was the old case and it had like these LEDs in it,
Yeah,
and it was
I don't-
super stupid.
I don't care about the aesthetics. I don't care about this RGB stuff. Even
Yeah, but it
this
was
system,
also huge. It was a huge case.
Oh, I got it. Okay, so it's like an actual full tower.
No, it was a square case. It was because I was like at the time I wanted to spend not that much money, but I still wanted to look okay.
Okay.
So I built a computer in 2016 for my game PC. That's what I did in May 2016, and then in December I bought a art PC, and I spent like $500-600 on it, and that was it. I bought a machine with DDR3 stuff like that. I was like, okay, it will be fine for a couple of years, and I'll upgrade eventually. But then I did eventually ran into some trouble when I tried to hook up a Cintiq with a 4K screen, and it did not like that at all.
No. It's funny how you could be frustrated by something or you don't really notice the incremental differences.
No. I noticed as soon as I hooked up the Cintiq because the screen, the resolution was so much higher that rotating anything in Clip Studio was undoable. Like you rotate the canvas so you can like do a line at a different angle,
Yeah.
and it's like they're turning your paper basically, and it apparently all happens in memory.
Right.
So there's no video card stuff involved. It's probably not hardware accelerated, though they probably should start working on that in Clip Studio.
Well, where I was going with this is the old system was running fine before I swapped it out with the one where we're talking through right now. And now it's just like, it's on, it's up, I'm signed in, Skype updated, other things updated. Oh, like 10 seconds went by. Here we go. It works. Great. It's frictionless. Right. And that's the kind of thing where the incremental state of things over time, you just don't notice. You might be irritated. Things might be slow. You become more patient or you become impatient. But until you see the contrast, or it's just time to move on, and then you notice there's a contrast that you weren't recognizing, you don't really know there was ever really a problem.
Yeah.
So,
well, I did help a person fix their computer last week.
yeah.
That was a fun one. So what happened was they got pushed to. They were having some issues with their Wi-Fi adapter with Bluetooth adapter they had to do headsets and stuff. There was they were running Windows 8, and then
Oh.
so some friends of them said, "Oh yeah, why don't you just upgrade to Windows 10?" So they upgraded to Windows 10. So that totally broke their machine. The machine was unusable because it wouldn't boot anymore. It was got stuck in a boot loop.
So the big piece of advice always is if you do the upgrade, you just back your stuff up and then you rebuild fresh. Don't do the convenience of doing the upgrade in place.
Okay,
Because
I understand.
things that are legacy will carry over badly.
I wasn't the person suggesting that they should upgrade to Windows.
I know. I'm just
10.
saying is that so that's the first mistake people do. The same hardware probably will run Windows 10, no problem, except that if they do the inline upgrade, they're really screwing themselves up.
So their PC was still not working, and I was like, okay, so what could it be? So I ran through them with that. I was able to help them recover some of the data from their SSD that they had in there, because for some reason the SSD was being wonky. But now I'm thinking something else because we've eventually figured out what the problem was. So it wouldn't boot. The boot record was broken, basically.
Yeah, master boot record.
Yeah. But not just that. There was other stuff happening as well. So.
Oh, they had bad blocks.
No. It wasn't SSD, so it should have been not a problem. So we recover some of the data that we're able to copy, and then we had some blue screens while in the recovery window of Windows 10. So that should have been a hint.
Yeah.
So copying stuff over, and then I think your SSD is fucked, because that was the thing. We wiped the original SSD. We moved everything over to the spinning disk hard drive, and that was safe. That drive was safe, so we moved everything over we could, and then we wiped the original SSD, and then we started the install for Windows 10. So it turns out during the Windows 10 install, first time fails. Second time it goes through, but it then it reboots and it fails. So I'm thinking, well, the SSD is probably fucked. So
That's a good thought.
Go on Amazon, buy a new SSD. SSD arrives. Try the same thing. It installs. Wonderful. And it's completely done. And then they start to play a game, and blue screen.
Yep.
Same thing happens again. Just a few minutes after boot. And the game that they installed is corrupted for some reason. They were updating the game. So and then it plays the first time, then you stop playing the game, and the game cannot be launched again. Rebooting, you have to reinstall the game because the game is corrupted. So I'm like, this is a brand new SSD. What the hell is going on? This can't be happening.
I have two thoughts.
Yeah, wait a second. I'm going to tell you what it is. I'm going to tell you what the problem was. So we go through a couple of things, and here's the part where I'm going to be saying, okay, the reason why we couldn't get to the problem earlier was not following a strict diagnose the problem line of rules for okay, you eliminate this part of the problem. You unplug everything you don't need, and you
Right.
just run with the things that you think. Maybe it's a webcam that's hooked up. Maybe it's um, I don't know, a Wi-Fi adapter that's a problem, right? Could be that. Does it still have the problem? Does it still have a blue screen after like a couple of minutes if you just run it without the Wi-Fi adapter in it? Right? Is that perhaps? Wasn't that? So eventually, I'm like, why don't you just take one of the memory sticks out?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like whenever it was like when Discord was on and something else was on, like League
Right.
of
Yeah.
Legends, it runs the first time, it doesn't run the second time. So unplug the first stick. Now it doesn't boot anymore, right? So there was like the Windows just crashed during boot. So I'm like, okay, take the other one out and put the original
Swap it. Yeah.
the one back in.
Yeah.
Yep, no problems anymore.
Yeah. RAM has a lot to do with it. The other thing is, even though it's an SSD and it doesn't have a lot of moving parts, what a lot of people don't realize, they do have a wear level. So depending on the quality of which brand and make that you buy, just because the SSD is cheap does not necessarily mean it's
Yeah,
a
it was a
good
Samsung,
quality
so
cheap.
it should have been
Okay,
fine.
well that's generally good. Samsungs are like I
Oh
don't
no,
think I've ever
the
heard of a
original.
problem.
I think the original was the Western Digital,
Yeah.
but that's fine too.
Uh, but with that said, the other thing that does happen is cables. Cables are always where things start to occur to be problems as well. But memory, I mean, memory is basically if memory is not in sync,
Oh
memory
no,
has a
no,
lot to do with
the other stick was just bad.
right. It was probably not partitioned or terminating right, so it was
But like
causing
they
probably
they weren't having this problem on Windows 8. Even we did memory tests with like specific
'cause it was
software to do memory tests with. They didn't
yeah.
find a problem, but Windows did find a problem when we did the mem test. But it didn't show anything. It didn't tell us what the problem was. So it was like, oh, we've done the thing, and it failed,
It could
and
be that
nothing else.
Windows 8. So did he go from? Did they go from 32-bit to 64?
I don't think so. They were
No.
Windows. They had like 8 gigs of memory, and they were Windows 8, and it was fine. I don't think they went from 32-bit to 64. I think that this was like it wasn't that old of a machine.
Hmm.
So like the motherboard was still fine. Was still I don't remember the specific model, but like it was a good model motherboard for the time. So I'm like I don't want to talk too much about it, but like it's like the whole clusterfuck could have been prevented by just following like specific, like if you diagnose a problem right, you could find it early. So if you go through just be methodical, right? So if you have a problem like this, start with unplugging everything you don't need.
Right.
Start
Yeah.
with, okay, so when does it happen? Like these things can be frustrating as hell. You just want like the first diagnose where is the source of the problem.
Yeah. Usually when stuff just fails on me, it does it at the most inconvenient time. So like with the last one, that thing sort of had a failure, and then I started to see it do it again, and we were recording, right? So I was like, screw this, and I literally unplugged it. I literally put it over in the pile in the corner there with the rest of the gear that I gotta get rid of, and I went over to Micro Center and I said, this and this I want.
Give me computer.
Yep. And I looked at the spec and I'm like, this will fit. This will mildly fit in with what I want to do with it going forward. So yeah, that's it. So
You
I
have a
spent a little
3600,
extra
right?
bucks on it. I don't know. You ask, I gotta look. That's why I just literally have not tossed out the spec sheet. What do I have? It is
Ryzen 5 3600.
Yeah. Yep. That's correct. Yep.
How many gigs of memory do you have?
It's only 16.
Okay.
Let me verify that.
Is it one or
Only
two
six-
sticks?
I don't know. I'd have to look.
Because if it's just one stick, you might
Oh,
want
it's 2 sticks.
Okay, good. So it's 2 sticks of 8.
Yeah, two 8. What does it say? Does it say? 2666. The speed DDR4.
Okay, that's not
20
not really fast, but
2600 basically. Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't like I wasn't looking for super fast, right? The use case for me is recording.
yeah, but
like
it's
I'm
fine.
doing
It's
now.
fine. I did the same thing for
exactly.
my art PC. It's like
Yeah.
I just use it. It's a 3600. It's absolutely fine
Right.
for what I use it for.
And I
I'm not
can
playing games on this. I'm
right,
never playing games on this machine.
and I can put another card in it. It came with a discrete graphics card built in. Or
Yeah,
not
you have a
built in, not on the
1660 or
motherboard.
1650. You have a 1650 in it. I think.
Gotta look on the spec sheet. I don't see it. It's probably not on this page.
Anyway, so but you're using that for like podcast recording and stuff
Right.
like that. So.
It has a Radeon RX 5700.
Oh,
in
okay.
it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, and and for my uses, which are mostly software heavy, for OBS it worked fine for 90 minutes. No problem.
Well, OBS can really benefit from like hardware encoding, like specifically on the
Right.
NVIDIA ones that they're
Right.
very good at. Like,
And because it's a tower, I can actually replace, if I want to. So what will probably happen is I'll put together a tower upstairs when I eventually decide to start spending money again. And then I won't get rid of the laptop, but I'll probably take its eGPU. I'll probably break it open, and maybe I could put the 2070 inside this.
yeah, that's a good plan.
If and when I need it. But by the time I get around to wanting to do that, I'll probably have a 3070 or something.
Probably be more useful than the one you have in it now.
Right. But what I have right now is doing exactly what I needed to do.
Yeah. That's wonderful.
Yeah. So, and why break it when it's not broken?
Mm-hmm.
So that's my point of view on it. And
And also you can make these cases, you can make them so very silent. Like the current fans I have in my new art PC they're noisy, very noisy.
right. Yeah.
But I don't care because I have a headset on. I'm playing music and stuff, so I'm not really focused on that. But I've been able to, because I moved my 1060, which has a noisy fan on it as well, into the art PC, and then I have a 1660 in my game PC, which is now very silent. I could probably even start doing like podcast recordings on that machine. But, I'm used to this, so... But the thing is with the tower, you can make it so silent compared to a laptop, which will spin up its fans when it's trying to do anything specific.
Yeah, no, that's true. And the laptop I have will do that occasionally, especially when I start lighting it up. Even though I had an ample amount of RAM put in it when I ordered it, it's still an older processor, and even with the eGPU being useful, which is actually fairly quiet, the laptop thermals will heat up. And even though I have it sitting on like a laptop cooler, which is perfectly fine, it's probably not the greatest place for me to do recording upstairs, which is also part of why I'm not doing it up there. And down here, I don't really, you can't hear the tower anyways. So when I do my recording, I do it down here.
Yeah, but you have your tower on right now, right?
It does. It is on, and yes, if you listen real close, you could probably hear it.
Yeah, so my fan on my MacBook has been spinning up a couple of times already, but
right.
But
I'm not doing professional thing. We're doing podcasting stuff, so
yeah, but I like to take care of that stuff so I don't have to deal with it in editing. Because
I
the thing is, when you edit it and there is a background noise like a hum or whatever, and it switches between the cuts, you can really hear the cuts if there's a background noise happening. So if it's as quiet as possible, you don't have that problem.
That is also why I turned off the heater for the house. It's cold down here. However, I could not escape when my roommate wanted to make a smoothie. While you're talking, he's making a smoothie.
Alan is slowly turning into a popsicle.
Yeah, I'm getting there. Okay, So
I have
we ran it a while.
I have one more thing.
Yeah.
Last time we talked about streaming, and the time before that we talked about art books.
Yeah.
I've been working on my art book for a while now. Since then as well, and I have gotten to a point where I'm reformatting stuff so it's more easily readable. It looks nicer and stuff. But going through like several iterations of the book, and you haven't had it printed yet. I don't know. It feels weird. I might just have to go and get it printed, like an initial version, so I can like get that out of my system, so I can focus on finishing it.
Do you have a deadline?
I don't have. I let go of the deadline. It's more of like a frozen situation. Let it go, basically. Just don't bother about the deadline anymore. Just make sure it looks nice.
Oh.
So
Okay, then
I've commissioned another artist to do a piece for the book, and I've been pushing that forward. So it's probably not going to be finished by the end of the year, but I've already added like I think 7 more sketches that I'm going to turn into artwork. So, but I've been knocking them off pretty fast now. I've gotten like into more of a rhythm of like I have 6 pictures in the queue that are like at the flats level, and I have some sketches, and then I have some ones that are halfway shaded. So I've been switching between them. And then the Stream Deck really helps with opening up all those documents every single time. And then just switching between them. And then like switching between the artworks keeps it fresh for me. That's important. So yeah. And then I think the last thing we have on the queue was the end of year stuff. I'm just going to be very happy when 2020 is over.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I certainly have found myself saying it elsewhere. Probably this is probably what the December episode title should be called. 2020 worst year to date. I mean, look, some good things have happened for me personally, but a lot of just terrible things have just happened worldwide. Period. Like, that's not even arguable. It's just period. A lot of not great stuff has happened this year.
It's going to be the end of the year. It's going to be thank Cthulhu. Yeah. It's over.
When I get to November, usually by the time I get to October, like this is like gift giving hell for me. And I'm kind of looking forward to not having to give at all. Because I don't know what to get people. I've not seen them in, weeks, months, whatever. I think I saw Matt maybe a couple months ago. I had lunch with him because I went on my way to call him up and say, hey, we should have lunch. And he's like, okay. But, outside of that, I'm not looking forward to all the craziness that happens in November for me to have to be a thing I have to prepare for in December.
I see a lot of people talking about online about Thanksgiving, canceling Thanksgiving.
Well, what's interesting, Halloween happened, right? So I was curious whether it was going to be canceled. So I've always talked about how it's not even really a thing anymore in this neighborhood. All the kids go out of the neighborhood for Halloween. And then I heard about some interesting things that were happening for Halloween. And so it kind of didn't happen at all here. I also sort of turned off all the lights, made us sort of unknown. So
this house does not exist.
Yeah, but our neighborhood sort of operates that way for Halloween lately. But Halloween wasn't exactly canceled. They did things differently, and I can't really recall. But there were some smart ideas that people had.
Candy cannons.
Or what they did is they had prepared bags, that kind of thing. And they would, they'd have a tray with the bags on it, so there's no real contact and stuff like that. So,
well, there's gonna be something on its way at the beginning of December. So we might have to do the next recording at the beginning of December, and you opening it on the podcast.
Did you send it already?
No, not yet. I'm gonna send it at the beginning of December because I noticed that if I send it early, I'm way ahead of all the stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm not sending it from the Netherlands. I'm sending it through Amazon, which is wonderful.
Oh, that'll be
So,
easier.
yeah. Sending it from the Netherlands, I sent a package to somebody I think it's south of the U.S., and it took like 4 weeks to get there.
The
And it
the
was
thing that
expensive to send. It was so
yeah.
expensive. It was like I think 35 euros to send it there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Amazon has so much of my money.
Yeah. Anyway, we have some fun stuff to share, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is sort of related to the stuff I've been dealing with, like getting certain things done
Mm-hmm.
and like organization and like more coding and then to-do lists and stuff like that. And this is a video called Flow State. I'm not going to pronounce his name. Some doctor. It's a TED Talk, Polymatic.media/VC. It's about that state you get into when you're like really focused on the thing, you know what you need to do, and you're in the zone, like
Right. Yeah, I refer to it as
like
being in the zone.
yeah. So
But
it's
I
called Flow
also
State.
always used to refer to flow, and it's similar ideas and corresponding concepts. But a good AMV will have certain more than one arcs of flow, right? Certain aspects of it where the music and the story concepts that are being displayed or being told flow together. There's consistently it's frictionless. It moves without any kind of jerkiness. It just sort of moves from one part or another. And a good state of flow will integrate the anime, the music, and the video together, right?
Yeah, but this is
And
more.
I
This is
used to
more of
when I
like a
would do
mental. This is more of a mental thing.
right.
So like, this is like your brain is doing that. It's.
But the version of that I would think about is being in the zone, right? When I get into, like for example, this week I started working on something where some gears were shifted for me with stuff that I was working on, and my assessment took a while because it was just a lot, right? But once I got my sort of list of things I knew I needed to do, the days just sort of moved by, the week moved by fast because I was sort of in the zone,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
This is. I think for me it's kind of weird because I also I do artwork and I do coding and I do artwork. And for both of these things, I can get into a state where I'm like in a flow state. But it's more like my subconscious takes over. It's like, okay, I know how to do this. Let me just take this for a bit, and you go listen to music.
Right. Yeah.
It's like my brain is like it's got its own little autopilot for certain things, and I'm done after like I'm working on a picture and I'm like, how did I do this? Like the same with certain pieces of code. Like it's brilliant code, even if I say so myself. But I'm like, did I do this? I'm not sure I did this.
There's lots
Where
of
did this
stuff
come from?
that happens, and people have said, "Oh yeah, you talked about it on OG," and I'm like, "We did." Right? Things just happen.
Yeah, but this
and
is
you
more than
sort of-
just forgetting you did it, right?
No,
This
no,
is more
I
like
got that, but I'm saying is I will often look at code and go, "Did I touch this? Or did I do this? Well, it really looks like I did this," and you can tell when someone like copy and paste your code and then scratches your name off and then they puts their own flavor on it, and you can see, no, that's not my decision making. That's totally not my decision making, and I could totally recognize my code for the most part. But there are moments where I get in exactly what you're talking about. I know exactly how it comes together, and I just need to go do the work. And the day will just all of a sudden, I will find myself just sort of, oh my god, it's 5 o'clock already.
I think
Where
the
did the day go?
I think the biggest component of this, of like identifying that this happened, is like you forget to eat, you forget to
Oh yeah,
go
I
to
do
bed.
it all the time.
Like I had like moments like when I was coding like at 3 o'clock in the morning, like making things, like it's like I don't know.
And you kind of chase it as well because like it's more of like I don't know if you can call it a high, but it's like you're like in the zone. You're like making cool stuff and
Hmm.
like
Yeah, I
yeah.
always, even though like video editing is and audio editing and doing any graphics work, all that stuff is a different kind of. They have their different kind of flow states. Being in the zone for that is a lot different, um, than working on a piece of code or making a chair, right?
Hmm.
But so what ends up happening is when you start out doing something, everything is confusing. And then over time, things are less confusing. And as you understand stuff and as you understand how you make decisions and what your style basically is, how you make decisions or how you address problems or problem solve in general, when you go through all that stuff, things become more frictionless. And once you've been doing something for so long, you put the hours in, um, things come together so easily. And then I've had those moments where, oh, I did that already? I forgot I did that. I have doubts that I did something. It's like, oh no, I totally did that already. Oh, I forgot that I did that at all. And you just sort of go into autopilot. And I do it all the time. And then I have to double check and go, I guess I did take care of that.
Hmm.
Past me already took care of me already. Future me, right? Future me, past me was thinking about future me. And I've always referred to coding as its own art form, right? Especially if you're like full stack, you have to consider all things. You don't consider one thing, you consider multiple parts and you consider, I've referred to this a lot with people at even the new job. I said, I play chess all day, but I'm not really, I never personally play chess. Like I'm thinking about all the moves. I think through all the moves. And so my first gut feeling and the first way I wanted to implement it was right on. And then we spent 2 days iterating and arguing over various aspects and iterating that. And then it turns out the first thing that I thought about was the right way to do it. And that's what we ended up implementing.
Hmm.
So, most of the time everything is an art form, right? Even making a cake is an art form.
No, it's like it's you notice it very
Yeah.
easily in people with
The
who
first time
do.
you bake bread, it's tough. Second time you do it, it's a little less tough. Third, fourth, the time you're into your 30th time, it's easy. Making cold brew, yeah, I can whip up 2 batches.
I don't think those two really match up, but like it's more of like it isn't like you're doing it automatically because that's the thing you've done a few thousand times. It's more of like um a flow of pure creativity, being able to do the thing, being able to automate yourself doing the thing, then allowing your creative parts to um, just take the reins and let it just go, right? So just making I don't know. You see it in musicians and like when they start playing and they start
Right, I
they're
understand
when they
when
do
you
a
feel
jam
it.
basically they're
When
playing
Yeah,
together and just
and maybe that's.
improvising on the spot and like that kind of stuff. I think that's closer to what
I
is meant
think
in this.
I think maybe the way I problem solve or I make decisions, I have a feeling about it. I have a gut feeling. I have an instinct
Mm.
towards how I want to do stuff, and that can sort of paralyze me temporarily. But then I find I have a feeling about it, and it's sort of the same way you're talking about, where like a couple artists get together and they jam, right? And somebody had some lyrics, and then somebody had the percussion, and then someone had the guitar, and someone had the piano, and then the singer comes out and puts it, and they all put it together, right? And it all feels natural and
Mm.
organic, and it just sort of happens, right? And I get it. That's what, when you get into that zone, everything just sort of happens. Um, but you can also, I don't know. I guess when I'm figuring out doing the coding, doing the work, and it's just all coming together, it is also comes together from a lot of previous experience and knowing how I'm making these decisions. And that's how flow works for me. So.
Okay. Polymatic.link/VC for a TED Talk on flow. Did you watch it, by the way?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's once you do full screen on it, especially on a big screen, it looks pretty dated, but it's like it's more than 10 years old.
Yeah.
Easily, yeah. Okay, so this is just interesting from a filmmaker perspective. I cannot speak to 1xBet as a company. I guess they're a betting company. I don't know. Definitely not in America that I'm aware of. So, I'm not necessarily saying anything about them. But it was just an interesting one-take sort of commercial. And I'm more interested from the filming and the production side of it.
It wasn't really a one-take commercial, by the way. There are lots of cuts.
No, there are a couple cuts, but it's it's still very impressive, is the point. And they entered this into a competition, and this is the competition where they're showing you both sides of it. So it's a commercial for 1xBet. Again, I don't know who that company is or anything about them, so please take it as it is. Polymatic.link/VI. And again, I was just impressed by sort of that effort. I thought it was really good.
Okay, next video is a video by Coderbay, and it is SQL murder mystery. Polymatic.link/VE, and it's about solving a murder mystery through SQL queries.
Yeah, it was interesting. Though when they started out, I'm like, "Oh, why are you doing that?" No, that's not how you form your work statement. And I was just like, I'm watching it. I wasn't critiquing. I'm like, oh, okay. But it was good. It was interesting. Totally interesting.
Interesting concept.
Yep. Okay, so I thought this was interesting in general. Flappy Bird, but RTX is on, and it's a little long. But I thought it was interesting of how this person was sort of going through and making a game. And it looked great. And it was basically remaking Flappy Bird and showing you sort of how the design is and how RTX being turned on is not always a good thing. Polymatic.link/VH.
Well, if you don't have an RTX card, then ray tracing is going to be a little bit tough on your machine.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got some music. The Midnight Light Years, Polymatic.link/VF. If you like synthwave stuff, you might like this. Like they have a newer album, and it's actually pretty good. I like it. There's some stuff on there that's really bad, but that's because they slow and speed up some of the tracks. They have like a slowing down and speeding up parts, and those really mess with my flow, as it were. So Polymatic.link/VF, but like most of this stuff is really good. So.
I'll tell you one thing that does assist my sort of getting in the zone is music.
Yeah. It's very important for me. If there's I have certain albums that I know that will trigger that for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm using them sparingly because I don't want to use them up on work anymore, because I did used to do that. And there's an album that I really love that I cannot listen to without getting frustrated anymore. Like there's stuff that just...
I find myself pausing at times, though. Right. Sometimes I need to concentrate on my thought and not enjoy other things, like I can't parallel task. Right. Okay, so I have an artist here. Now, I don't know where I found her. I don't know if you recommended her, if the algorithm recommended me, or if I got it from like a Discord server. I don't love the name of her as an artist. Like, I don't love Mothika. Like, seems like the dumbest name ever, but I like her music. And this song is called Blackout, and if you like this song, the album is good, and I generally recommend her as an artist. She has a release. It probably released while we were recording a brand new music video, so I've not seen it yet, but I do have this current album, Polymatic.link/VG. Yeah, VG.
Wow, judgmental. You're so judgmental about the name.
I just don't get the name, and maybe I just don't know enough about like her background. Maybe she really does like moths. Maybe she likes something about it, but she does really lean in on this theme. I like her music. I absolutely like her as an artist, but I don't get Mathika.
It's a song about alcoholism.
Her name isn't like Monica. Her name is Mackenzie. It's Mathika. I don't totally get it.
That's their thing.
Yeah,
the video was interesting. It's it's about alcoholism, I think.
Yeah,
At least that's the vibe I got from it.
Yeah. But her song that I think I heard was Vices, which was pretty good. Blue Hour's another one that's pretty good. She's made it into the mix of music when I listen to music, and I've really been enjoying the latest album.
And the last video I have is Jaden Animations finishing Minecraft with Call Me Carson. It was very entertaining. Polymatic.link/VJ, and I really recommend you watching it. I just added it to the list just at the last moment, but Alan, you should really watch it. It's pretty funny.
I'll check it out.
Yeah. Okay. So should I even ask?
No.
No?
Don't follow me on Twitter.
Okay. So
don't bother.
He's on Chase. CHAESS on Twitter.
I don't really. I mean, it's like following me on Instagram. Like I posted, I think twice this week, and that is probably one of the few times I posted all year.
Okay. You can also find me on Twitter, twitter.com/webdevy, WEBDEVVIE. For feedback, you can reach us at podcast@Polymatic.media. For feedback, you can reach us at podcast@Polymatic.media. Music is by Say Unz, which you can find at Polymatic.link/EK. Our Twitter is ThePolymatic. Our website is Polymatic.media. And I hope you tune in next time.